welcome to the final round. I'm here with One Kick Nick Blomgren and Mr. Odds Matthew Holt. You like that one?
Love it.
And nicknames, so I might as well give myself one. And I'm the American Psycho Stephan Bonnar, and we got a lot of fight stuff to talk about, but very, very briefly.
Yeah,
I mean,
talk
very
about
briefly.
What are the odds of Trump blasting Korea, huh?
Oh, the odds on Trump blasting Korea. That's Matt's specialty. So I'd say,
Getting pretty close, huh?
the U.S.
It's getting
is
better by the hour here.
It's about a 3-1 favorite in that department.
Yeah. I'm thinking I'm going to have to lay those odds.
Are you going to take bets on that?
I'm going to parlay that.
Sportsbook.
No.
I'm going to parlay it. If it's going to be China or...
North Korea, then China. All right. News and world events go to CNN, unless we start a news show. But this show's about fighting for the most part. And we're going to talk fights. Let's briefly touch on that Bellator card. Here's what I thought of Bellator. Once again, they have another kind of snooze fest, anticlimactic fight. And hey, when you put Eduardo Dantas in the main event, that's what you're going to get. He gets a unanimous decision against Higo, but I mean, that guy's kind of boring.
I've noticed on their international cards, it's where they tend to struggle the most. Their American cards are usually pretty good. They're fan-friendly. But their international cards have kind of been duds.
You think they're just trying to save money and get shows under their belt?
Could be. I mean, the UFC, historically, when they first started international cards, a lot of them were a lot of people, we weren't really familiar with, and they were just trying to use some regional guys. And, Bellator is probably having the same problem.
And we're watching the highlights here, Eduardo Dantas, and this is the story of the fight. He lands his jab and he runs away. Lands his jab, kind of little pop shot, outpoint the guy's strategy, run away, not too exciting. And thank God Higo missed weight by 4 pounds. That's why it wasn't a 5-round title fight. It ended up being only a 3-round non-title fight. And I'm kind of happy because I don't think I could have watched another 2 rounds of that.
Yeah, I guess, when those guys miss weight like that, they're professionals. How do you made the weight the whole time?
And now
you get a
here
title
comes
fight?
your big shot, and
Is that because
you
you
eat
don't
too
want
much
to do
pizza.
the extra 2 rounds?
That's actually, hey, if you're not in shape, that's a good strategy. I never thought about that. If you're worried about gassing out, you're not ready for 5, just miss weight.
Just miss weight,
That's
no
it.
title fight.
Only goes to 3, and you didn't lose a title
Do
fight.
I know about guys missing weight?
Oh, yeah. Cheaty. Yes. What's the over-under on whether Cheaty's going to make weight in his next Bellator fight?
If he starts getting ready now, he might be all right. That's
Might be
not
able to
until
do
July,
it.
Probably.
I don't see how he does 170, though. My
Yeah.
God, that guy is enormous at 170. He's taller than me.
Yeah, Chitty's huge. For
Hollow
170. And speaking of Dantas, it's funny that we talk about how boring his fights have gotten, because I remember his first fight with Joe Warren being one of the most exciting fights I'd seen in Bellator.
And compare that with his last fight against Joe Warren.
Yeah, that's
What
right.
did he do? He ran around, jabbed
Yeah.
him, and ran.
Yeah, that's
And
right, yeah.
I think he could have taken Warren out whenever he really wanted to, but he just really likes playing it safe.
Yeah, because that first fight with Warren, that was a great fight to watch, really fan-friendly. And you went, wow, Dantas, this guy's really fun. And then just
His
never
last
really
couple
materialized.
fights.
Yeah, Galvo fight, and then the second Warren
Snoozer.
fight. Yeah.
Snoozer. Yeah. And that's that style of jabbing and running away. And speaking of that style, we got a couple more fights on the UFC on Fox card that followed that same kind of strategy that I'm not a big fan of. We had Moicano versus Stevens, and Moicano followed that kind of strategy of just running around, pop-shotting him, landing his jab, and getting out of harm's way, and spent a lot of time backpedaling, a lot of time running away. And let's not forget, effective aggression is one of the key points when it comes to scoring. So I'm all for that. If you're running away, if you're backpedaling a lot, then I think the fighters should be penalized, let alone not rewarded for it. But let's start adding the stalling in. Bring back the yellow cards.
Yeah, he looked like he was hightailing it a few times, huh?
And here you see the highlights. He did get a couple takedowns, which helped him secure that decision, but he did a lot of this, a lot of just running away with his back turned, running away.
Ducking and running.
And I remember one round where he spent the last 10 seconds of the round running away with his hands up. And to me, it was like, you're not winning the fight when you're doing that. And most Russians don't do that. I mean, I guess Klitschko, you can make the argument. All he does is hide behind his jab. But Volkov versus Roy Nelson, we saw Volkov kind of implement that same strategy of moving backwards a lot, just using his length, moving backwards against Roy Nelson.
Pop-shotting and moving.
Pop-shotting, trying to get that decision.
But I think there's a difference between pop-shotting, trying to use your footwork, and literally turning your back and running like Moicano did, whereas Volkov was just kind of trying to use his distance. He's so tall, you felt like he had to back up to actually make his jab effective, which was really effective.
Yeah, because he was getting
in
crowded.
That fight, yeah.
And I lost some money. I believe it was Stevens that was the 3-1 underdog versus Moicano.
No, it was Stevens, I think, was like minus 175 versus Moicano. I think the 3-1 underdog you're thinking of was probably Bobby Green.
Wow, you're good. Yes. Bobby Green. Who did he fight again?
Magomedov.
Yes, Magomedov. And in that fight, Bobby Green was a 3-1 underdog. I knew the fight would be a little closer than that. Magomedov ended up winning a split decision in that fight. And just everyone at home, so you know, if you're betting a fight and you take a 3-1 dog and he loses a split decision, you're doing the right thing. Keep trying to find bets like that, and they'll eventually pay off.
Yeah, and I thought that fight could have gone either way. And, you know, Bobby looked a little rusty, and he didn't quite get off. I did think Magomedov won. He was a little bit more accurate. His body kicks especially seemed to find the mark. But, you know, Bobby was really competitive. The fight was super close, and if he just could have got off a little bit, I think he could have stole that one.
You're right. I thought Bobby looked a little bit rusty, and especially in the hands department. It just looked like he couldn't land his punches.
Let him go, and
his distance was a little bit off.
Yeah.
And he wasn't really letting him go.
Yeah. Not too many people fight like you.
Well, let's bring back Bonnar. No, just kidding.
Bring back the new improved Bonnar.
But, yeah, I'm a big fan of moving forward. I did it when I fought. And watching a fight, too, this reminded me of that. And like I said, we saw that where Dante's first ego, one guy moving backwards the whole time, not really engaged in the fight. Moicano Stevens, the same thing. And Volkov versus Nelson. And Matt had a good point on the Volkov versus Nelson. That was really the only way Volkov could gauge his distance and land his shots effectively. But by that point, I had just become so fed up with Dantes and Moicano that I said, no, Volkov's doing this now too. Bring back the yellow cards. And here we see, the round one, referee stood him up with 20 seconds left in a round that Roy Nelson had totally won. And Volkov ends up stealing the round with a little bit of flurry there. Was that a justified stand-up, do you think?
No, I don't know that it was with 20 seconds left. And look, I thought Roy Nelson won the round anyway, but he certainly lost the fight because Volkov really got his range the next two rounds. And that jab, that was one of the best uses of a hard, stiff jab I've seen in a while. I mean, he was landing hard jabs throughout the entire second and third rounds. And look, Roy Nelson didn't have the gas tank to actually move his feet and get out of the way. He just ate every single one of them.
And Roy was frustrated, and rightfully so at that point. He did get kind of outpointed, picked apart, and Volkov, it's also frustrating when a guy does that and doesn't engage you, and you're moving forward and he's moving back, and he gets the victory.
I think a big country would have brought it downstairs a little bit because it just seemed like he was headhunting the whole time.
Yeah, it's true. Work the body, right?
Yeah, if he would have, landed some huge shots to the body, I think those hands would have started falling and given him a better chance to land that bomb that he wanted so bad.
And don't you think experienced guys like Roy Nelson, Jeremy Stevens have seen these guys try to employ this strategy before? Nothing against Jeremy Stevens, but he looked frustrated in that fight. He looked like a guy chasing him. He never tried to cut the angles. He just, he chased him around the whole time. And same thing with Roy. He looked like all right, fine, eat 4 jabs and then just throw that one wild looping right. And
with it.
yeah, I mean, sometimes you'd feel like you've been in this position plenty of times before. You know what to do. You know how to cut a ring off, or and I don't know if cages are different. I know some rings are different size, but maybe it's just because so many guys are running. The octagon looked big Saturday.
Yeah, the cage, the octagon is 30 feet. That's a lot of real estate to work with.
Yeah.
And it is when you're fighting a guy like Machida or, guys like Moicano who run really well. It can be frustrating because you have so much room to work with. And that's actually a really integral part of the fight game is kind of how much room do you have to work with.
Well, if the UFC complains about the running, then they should shorten the ring up.
Yeah, if the UFC complains about it. I know the old fight nights, it used to be a little bit smaller. I think it was like when we fought in the Hard Rock, like a 24-foot octagon.
I felt like some of them looked a little bit different.
Yes, yeah. And that's it. I don't know if that's still the case, but definitely when I fought.
King of the Cage ring, that's only like 18 by 18.
It's tiny.
18 foot.
You want to fight Machida in a ring like that.
Put him in the phone booth.
But you're right, Matt, a very entertaining card. In other actions, we saw Patrick Williams fight Duquesnoy. Am I saying that right? Duquesnoy?
I don't even remember how to say it, but it's not pronounced like it looks like it's spelt on paper. I remember the announcers constantly pronouncing it properly, and it doesn't pronounce like it looks on paper. But what an awesome performance.
But yeah, Duquesnoy, heavy favorite in that fight. Patrick Williams.
All the way up to minus 1,200. I just want to say that because that was a fight that was in like the minus 600 range all week. And leading up to fight night, it got all the way up to minus 1,200. And I kept looking at this kid going, who is this kid that they're betting up to one of the biggest favorites we've seen in 2017, minus 1,200 on a UFC card? And he looked the part in the second round, although he was in trouble. If you would have laid 12,000 to make 1,000 in that first round, you were nervous.
And bettors out there, take note. This Duquesnoy is hot. People like him. People are going to be betting him. Expect him to be heavily favored when it comes to his future fights. Patrick Williams actually was able to land some good stuff on him in that first round until he completely gassed. And at 135 pounds, there's no excuse for gassing out. I'm sorry. Little guys, you shouldn't gas out. You're little.
That had to be a nerve issue. You're right. I mean, that gas tank went empty.
Yes, during the first round, he had gassed out. He was gassed out during the first round. But the thing I'm taking away from this fight is that people love betting Duquesnoy.
Northcutt.
Just like Matt said, minus 1,200 favorite. So that means in the future, this guy's going to be a heavily favorite guy. And he doesn't have the best defense. He isn't the hardest to hit. And the right matchup, he's going to lose. And I'm going to be there to cash in.
It kind of reminds me of the Sage Northcutt experience, which is what I call it, because Sage Northcutt, all those
a ton of hype,
and all the fancy things he could do. And then, I mean, it wasn't even a mega guy that got it. It was Brian Barberena. And he was a huge favorite in that fight, like minus 800 or minus 900. Sage was, but you could see it coming from someone to Sage.
And I must say, we brought this point up in past shows that Sage Northcutt has a glass neck.
Glass neck, yeah.
He does. Yeah. We were talking about this last week.
He doesn't have
guys
those
with the
deep arteries.
Yeah, those deep John Fitch arteries. He doesn't have.
Do some training with John Fitch and learn how to.
No, it's something you're born with. Fitch's arteries are really deep in his neck. You can't choke the guy out. I'm telling you. So good card, top to bottom. Probably the fight that really stole the show, I must say, Jacare versus Robert Whittaker. In this fight, it was kind of a toss-up. I thought Jacare might be able to win it, but you knew right when Jacare was able to take Whittaker down, he rolled him, he got to his back, and Whittaker escaped. You saw Jacare's heart just kind of fall into his stomach. And after that, just like the beginning of the end, here's the big roll through. Jacare gets his back. And boom, Whittaker gets out. And then Jacare just looked confused.
And at this point, Robert Whittaker has now knocked out Derek Brunson, Jacare Souza. I mean, he's cleaned out.
Not just one fight. He's beat those guys up.
Yes.
I never seen
And
Jacare
that-
beat up like that. Since his first fight with Macaco, Jungle Fight 1, I fought Machida on the card. He got knocked out in a minute. He didn't know how to strike then. But he's on an 8-fight streak at 185, and he just got smoked. I like how Whitaker landed that overhand right. That set up the uppercut. Then Jacare's like, enough of this. He tried circling to his left, and boom, Robert Whitaker set up that right high kick.
And that's about the time when I started realizing my card was finished.
See, you hit a big parlay last week, and you probably got a little
I
overconfident.
got a little cocky, and
And you doubled down this week.
I didn't double down. I did double down.
I just meant in terms of the
I didn't put as much, but it still pissed me off. I was thinking I was.
But doesn't it make you feel better that like the whole parlay went to crap? I hate it when
Yeah, the
one
whole
fight in my parlay is like a split decision.
The only one I had was Rose, and that's the only one that won.
Well, that's not too bad. And speaking
I
of
only
Rose,
did a 3. I stuck to the 3 team. It's a good thing you didn't talk me into that other parlay.
oh yeah, you were going to do the whole new
I was
parlay.
going to do Stevens.
I thought I did talk you into that.
We were talking about the Stevens
Yes,
and
because he was the underdog.
Bobby
Green
Green.
parlay,
And I was
being an
thinking,
underdog.
maybe Bonner knows something here.
Rose Namajunas, she looked tough. She takes out Michelle, the Karate Hottie Watterson, with a rear naked choke. But what impressed me with her in that fight was not just how slick her grappling was, but how good her striking looked. And she landed a beautiful right high kick. But Michelle Watterson has to be careful. She's playing that side stance, lead leg side kick game. And when you're playing that game and someone's looking to, they're going to look to counter with that long kick, you got to start launching that spinning back fist. Now, one spinning back fist did I see, and she's playing the lead leg side kick game. Nick, big karate guy, you're good at playing that side kick game, and you know how important that spinning back fist is.
Yeah,
when
you
you're
got to have
standing
something
sideways.
in case they go after that back leg.
Yeah, you're
Most of the
standing
time
sideways. It takes a
most
lot
the
of
time
your
they
tools
drop,
away.
They drop their hands when they're going for the bottom leg. So
Yeah,
And Rose had set that up a couple times by moving to the side of that and throwing punches. So you could see that Michelle was kind of looking for the punches
And
when she
lean
came,
back.
and then that's right, lean back and then just right.
just lean back. Lean back. And eat a high kick.
and she's in Rose is just getting better and better.
Yeah, she is. I was hoping you'd miss that one, Matt, in terms of the betting favorites, because her record was something like 6-3, and Michelle Watterson was 14-4. So I'm like, I hope Matt makes the odds kind of close on this. Maybe even favors Michelle Watterson, because I think Rose could pull this one off. But no, you're too smart for me, Matt. You made Rose the
We
favorite.
actually opened Rose 145. We're getting two-way action all week, and then fight night came, and all of a sudden, Karate Hottie money started coming in, and all of a sudden, that fight went from Rose minus 145 all the way down to a pick'em, and
My
Yeah.
God, I got to start
Amazing.
checking these
Yeah.
odds more often,
Maybe I
because
should
I see the
start-
odds, and then I'm like, oh God,
There's two
she's
peak
not a
times to
dog.
bet. And these are I always tell people, if you're going to bet UFC, you might as well wait for these 2 times. Right after the weigh-ins, you always get a massive wave of betting, that mostly because of the 38% on fighters that miss weight. They only win 38%. But then after the weigh-ins, that fight night, because that's when people get into town on the weekend. So you get the weekend money, and they bet people they know or the better records. They pick up a sheet and go, oh, this person has a better record. Or in Michelle Watterson's case, oh, we all saw her beat up Paige Van Zandt.
Yeah, and a better
And then the
record.
public money comes flowing in, and you get good lines late.
So I thought you were gonna say
Yeah.
right when they open, but no, you're saying right after weigh-ins and fight night.
Yeah, because a lot of times we open them on Monday. So the last fights ended. Monday morning we open the new ones. And what happens is the really smart guys try to come in and hit it early,
Must
and
not
then
be one
all
of those
week.
smart guys, because I keep doing it like right after our show.
Yeah, and that's
No,
Monday.
That's
yeah.
not a bad time.
Yeah.
It's still Monday.
Yeah, but if the line can move like that,
Well, if you're betting against someone who you know is popular, then a lot of times it's better to wait till the weekend when the people come in for the weekend
And bet the popular fighter.
Yeah, and then betting against the popular guy, you'll get the best odds right before fight time because everyone's in town for the weekend betting the popular guys.
Some good stuff here from Matthew Holt, gamblers. So, yes, bet on the fights after you see the weigh-in to see if the guy looks flat or chubby and miss weight. And then, hey, if you're betting against a popular fighter, boom, on fight night when all the money from the popular fighter rolls in. Very good stuff. You just said that, and I totally repeated it.
I mean, I
trying
got
to
Rose
drill it
named
in your
McGinnis
heads.
as a pick. I ended up betting her late as a pick'em, and she was 145 all week, only because the Michelle Watterson money rolled
The
in.
popularity money came in.
Same thing with DJ. He was like minus 700, minus 800. He was minus 1,000 on fight night because people come in, they
Good
go, this
God.
guy can't lose, and of course he looked amazing. But
He did. So, other than that, we just got Tim Elliott versus Louis Smolka to talk about. Smolka, great the scrambles, but Tim Elliott a step ahead of him all night. And you said that fight, too, had people betting Smolka late.
it was by far in fact, we won more money on that fight than the next three biggest fights that we won combined. It was an unbelievable amount of money.
Came in on
Yeah,
Smolka.
we opened that fight minus 330, and all throughout the week we kept taking Smolka bets. And by fight night, it got so insane that minus 330 went all the way down to minus 165 as a close, which is a huge line move. And then Elliott dominated. We didn't take one single bet on Tim Elliott over $200, and I think we took 17 bets on Smolka, 4 figures or more.
Good God.
Yeah, at a big underdog price.
Wow.
He was by far one of the most popular big underdogs I'd seen in a while.
See, I got to check the lines more because when I saw Tim Elliott open at a 3-1 favorite, it was just like, I pick him, but what's the point of putting down $100 to make 30?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. And Mighty Mouse, my God, versus Wilson Hayes. He just keeps getting better and better. He just picked Wilson Hayes apart. It wasn't until the third round he really started finding a home for that straight right. And when the armbar finally came, it didn't even look like Wilson Hayes tried too hard to escape it. It was just like, my God, I'm getting smoked, man. And
He started figuring him out. He started realizing that every time he throws a punch, if he just hangs out for just a second, he can counter him again. And that started happening in that third round, you know.
And here we see him doing it there. He throws a punch, a kick. He leans back a little bit, and you're right. He started countering Wilson Hayes. And then the finish of the fight was just so impressive. Mighty Mouse is, I think, that's his best strength more than anything.
He cut him real bad with that elbow.
He sure did.
And
yeah.
had him bleeding.
The guy felt him coming on then. He was like, okay, it's time to check out here.
Yeah, and I don't think Hayes had to submit to that armbar there. I think he probably could have fought it off a little more before it got locked in. I just think at that point
He knew he was
done.
getting schooled.
Done, dominated, hurt, cut, bleeding.
This is a good time to go.
Yeah.
And Mighty Mouse, I'd say better than anyone else in the sport, is better than anyone else at figuring you out as the fight goes along.
Did he tie a record?
Yeah, tied Anderson's record,
Anderson's
Anderson
record?
Silva's record
Yeah.
for title defenses.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see who he fights next.
Hey,
I mean, if Cody Garbrandt fight actually happens, it's the biggest fight ever under 155 pounds. But do you want to risk breaking the record on that fight, or do you give him the winner of Sergio Pettis? And
Well, if you're Mighty Mouse, who do you want? Do you
Yeah,
want to
that's right.
risk the right? Yeah, I mean, if you're Mighty Mouse, you kind of might want to stick to your division and just be the king of that division. I mean, does he really have anything to prove by moving up in weight?
well, I thought Garbrandt was going to come down. Garbrandt said he would come down.
Oh, good
Fight
God.
him at 25.
Oh,
Assuming
that's the
Garbrandt
case.
beats TJ, of course. And but I mean, what a huge fight that would be.
That
for
would
Garbrandt
be.
to come down to 25 and challenge Mighty Mouse there.
Wow, if Garbrandt could have made 125 this whole time, you know,
Yeah.
why hasn't he?
Maybe he went after the easier title first.
He's like, I don't feel like cutting weight till I win a title. Yeah.
Well, there was also probably a lot more exciting fights at 35. I mean, you
A lot
had
more fights
Dominic
for
and
him.
Faber at the time.
But
and
his whole
Almeida.
career has been at 35.
As far as
right?
I know, in the
As
UFC.
far as I know, too.
I mean, his big breakout fight was Almeida, and then he beat what's his name? The Asian guy. that Dom-
Mizugaki.
Yeah, and then of course he beat Dom and.
So there you have it, UFC on Fox 24, a success. I'm sure the UFC is happy when they put a show on the big network like Fox, including the prelims, and you have some performances like that.
You know what I
Gotta
did
be
read,
happy.
which I thought was really disappointing, because I thought this was one of the best Fox card I'd watched in a while, and I hate that this tends to happen a lot to Demetrius, but I saw it got the lowest ratings on any of the UFC on Fox's.
Oh, wow.
The main
No
card
way.
did. Yeah, I did. I saw it was a 1.82 million max or something was
Yeah,
the
and
max.
they always say that they've said it before that Mighty Mouse doesn't draw that many
Doesn't
viewers.
draw. If you're gonna put a champion on the free channel, it's probably gonna be a guy that doesn't draw the big numbers.
Which is a shame, because for all people who really love the sport, he's amazing.
Yeah, his skill set.
Yeah.
Exactly. So coming up, UFC Fight Night 108, and then we have Bellator on Friday, I believe. Yeah, UFC Saturday, Bellator Friday, Pitbulls versus Strauss 4. We'll touch briefly on this. The rest of the card could go to hell. I mean, I'm going to tune in for the main event. And they're kind of losing me here. I need to see some good action, Bellator. Their last couple cards haven't been too exciting. And there's, other than this main event, there's no one really on the card that stands out to me. Like, oh, I need to watch this guy.
Interestingly enough, we talked about earlier, the only other time in professional MMA that in major organizations where two fighters have fought each other 4 times, Andrei Arlovsky, Tim Sylvia. Yeah. So this is only our second 4 quad fight, whatever we call this one.
Yes.
Quadruple.
And those two, 3 of the fights were in the UFC and 1 fight outside of the UFC. So this might be the first time in the same organization.
That's right.
Yeah. 2 guys have fought 4 times. And if you don't know, Strauss and Pitbull, this will be the 4th time they went at it. The first time Pitbull won a decision back in 2011. The second time, Strauss got a lot better. He looked to have the fight in the bag, and then he got choked out either in the 4th or the 5th round, late in the fight. And then finally, this last time they fought, Strauss seemed to have evolved to an even higher level, and he pretty handily won a unanimous decision.
I don't know how Strauss loses. Well, I know how he loses this fight. I mean, Pitbull with the huge right hand probably could knock him out, but Strauss is the biggest featherweight I think I've ever seen. He is just a monster, and at this point, I think he's evolved so much that
in his career,
it's hard to see him lose this fight.
Yeah, it seems like they're putting this fight on more so that Pitbull has 2-1 victories, and this could even up the score, not necessarily because Pitbull's got a great shot of winning, although he did win the last one.
Yeah, and I don't know that they had another perfect contender right now to throw in there. And to your point, look, they probably needed an exciting fight. Every one of Pitbull's fights are exciting. This one will probably be the same. He always goes out on his shield when he goes out. So I just think Strauss is too big, too strong, too good at wrestling, just a little bit too much for Pitbull now.
And like you said, too evolved in his game.
Yeah.
So it's the only Bellator fight I'm going to tune in and watch. The cards just haven't been doing much for me. But this, once again, a free UFC. 2 weeks in a row, you get a free UFC. What a treat. And this card is actually pretty good. I like this card. The main event, I don't see how Cub Swanson loses. We got Cub Swanson versus Artem Lobov. Am I saying that right? Lobov, and Artem's getting this fight because he's one of Conor McGregor's training partners. His record's 13-12. How's he going to win?
I know. I mean, we've talked about the matchmaking since Joe left, and it just look. I'm okay. At least most of the fights have had competitive odds, but last week you had a -1,000 favorite. It was a title fight, so okay, we get it. But DJ was still -1,000. Now we turn right back around and have a number 3 ranked guy against a non-ranked guy, and in a non-title fight have a -600 favorite to headline a card, and it's not going to go lower. This fight's only going to go up. It could be -800 by fight night.
If you're, the UFC, how do you explain Lobov getting this main event fight besides his link to Conor McGregor?
That's a good link.
Because ratings, people from Ireland are going to tune in.
I mean, he has won 2 fights in a row. I guess we can give him that. One over a guy making his UFC debut, and Chris Avila, who trains with the Diaz brothers in. That fight was really boring with Avila and Lowe. I don't know how he's in this spot. I think there's so many featherweights they could have just plugged into this
that are
spot.
more deserving.
And Cub Swanson coming off that performance against
huge
Suhu
win.
Choi.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Where he was
Fight
actually
of the
the
year.
underdog.
He
That's
won
right.
Fight of the year on that.
Yeah. And now to stick him in a fight here against an overmatched opponent, I don't know what this does for Cub's career. So after he knocks out this unranked guy, or what does it do, But
really, if you're Cub, do you kind of accept the role as gatekeeper now? We've seen him against the top guys in the division.
I don't know. The one thing I think he has going for him is Max Holloway. It's not like he's fought either one of them a bunch of times. I feel like he could get one more title shot. He's still there to get a title shot.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't see him getting it. And I thought maybe he had a chance, but when I saw him in there with Frankie Edgar absolutely get manhandled, then it kind of said, okay, he's a great fighter, don't get me wrong, but I think he'll assume more the gatekeeper role.
But he's 9-2 his last 11, and the only losses are to Frankie and to Holloway. So the interim champ and basically the number one non-champ, yeah. And Frankie at this point, I suppose you're right. The path would have to kind of fall in his favor for him to get a title shot, but at least he's right there. I don't quite think he's gatekeeper yet.
And Baroni was on the show, and he said our tough one is dead, right? Remember he said that about the Ultimate Fighter season 1? But The Last Samurai, Diego Sanchez. The Last Samurai season 1 is fighting Al Iaquinta. And so season 1 is still alive and barely breathing. Nick, do you think Diego has any shot of beating Al Iaquinta?
Diego's always got a shot because he's just so wild.
But he doesn't have that knockout power.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have good enough wrking to get his submissions are crazy good, but how's he going to get the fight to the ground?
Quinta, he can hit. I think it'll be a good fight.
Remember his fight with the Motor City Phenom?
Yeah, that was a
great fight.
Great fight. It was a great fight. He beat him, right?
I think Al won a decision.
Al won, yeah. Al ended up beating Kevin Lee.
Yeah, and then where's he been?
He retired. He's been on the
Selling
shelf
houses.
almost 2 years in real estate.
Yeah, maybe selling houses isn't as exciting as getting punched in the face. Huh?
And Kevin Lee said he'd be back. Kevin Lee wanted that fight again.
He did say he would be back, yeah.
He did call it. But yes, is he going to have ring rust?
Maybe he had some injuries or something that he needed to
No, he got sick of the sport, and he just straight up retired and said, I'm done.
He told me, he said in a couple interviews, not me, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say it that. He said in a couple interviews that after the Reebok deal, cost him more money to do a proper training camp than he made at the end of it under his contract.
True.
Oh, that's pretty sad. But real estate probably wasn't too friendly to him, and that's why he's back here for a payday. But is he collecting a payday, or is he going to be prepared, in shape? And he's only 29 years old. Sure, he's been on the shelf for 2 years, but that's your prime in MMA.
And one of the things that I've fallen victim to personally here a couple times in a row in 2017 is betting against guys who've been on the shelf for a while. I bet against Korean Zombie. Mm-hmm. He'd been out for almost 3 years, came back, looked spectacular with a knockout. I don't know that I'm eager to jump in front of Al Iaquinta here.
Yeah. Especially in this matchup, considering, look, Diego, he has won 2 of his last 3 fights, but those are decisions that, Marcin held, he won that fight, but I think of some of the decisions he's won over the years, and they have been gifts, like Christmas coming early for him.
The Ross Pearson fight. Look, and to your point,
Martin Kampman.
Yeah. And he hasn't won a fight by stoppage since June 2008. So he hasn't won a fight by finish, submission, or KO in 9 years.
And that's his dilemma, is he's not a big puncher and a great submission guy, but his wrestling a lot of times isn't good enough to get the fight to the ground.
Yep.
But
and Al has great training. Like you said, 4 of the fights are from Jackson's camp on this card.
Yeah.
It's the Jackson Wink, yeah.
Yeah, and
Cub in the main event and Diego here in this one.
So you got what I was
they're
saying
both
was
good camps.
Yeah, they're both good camps. You got
Sarah Longo with Al.
Sarah Longo. That's a good camp. Those guys get him prepared.
Yeah, Diego always comes in shape, game as hell. I always said he had the best chin in the game until we saw a chink in that. We saw the crack, the ice start to crack in the chin department against Joe Lauzon, another guy on the card. And yeah, how much more could Diego take? And Al is a pretty good striker. I mean, he has pretty good snap on his punch. Does he have the snap to knock Diego
He's got
out?
that Ray Longo
Yeah.
type feel, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Al's resume is pretty good. He beat Kevin Lee.
Yeah.
He beat Jorge Masvidal, who's
Yeah,
basically in a
the
number
number
one
one guy
contender
now.
fight at welterweight.
Well, maybe he
has
saw
some
that and
impressive
decided,
wins.
well, shoot, I beat all these guys. It's time for me to get back in this.
Yeah, could
Because
be.
he probably would beat where
That's
Kevin Lee's
right.
at today.
That's right.
He probably saw what Masvidal's been doing lately and said, oh my God,
mean,
look,
Masvidal's
he's beating
fighting
these
Maia
top
on
guys.
pay-per-view.
Yeah, he's getting a main event high. And I beat that guy. Like, I want to get back in this. And I think, this is a good fight for Al. I'm going to be rooting so hard for Diego that I'm not going to bet against him because really he's the season one's last samurai. I doubt we'll see Koscheck fight again. I'd be surprised. Yeah, you bet against them. And at minus 350, we see more people bet on Diego since he's the bigger name and because Al's been on the shelf. You think we could check those odds fight night and they'll come down a little?
I wouldn't be surprised. I think come fight night, what we'll see is a lot of those $20 to $50 bets coming in on Diego Sanchez for emotional reasons and name attachment value as well.
Yeah, that's going to be me, emotional reasons. Season one's not dead, Diego. Let's do this one. And hey, who knows? Maybe he'll get another Christmas gift decision. I mean, hey, he's got him before.
That Ross Pearson
where's
one.
the fight? Where's the fight being held?
Matt would know this.
I feel like it's Oklahoma or something, Tennessee.
Somewhere like that.
Well, if it was in Las Vegas, you would definitely have a chance.
Yeah, it's certainly not Vegas, no.
Another action. Marcos Rogerio de Lima is fighting OSPO Vince St. Preux. And right now, St. Preux minus 165 favorite. In this fight, I think OSP is going to win this. And how is he going to win? By just dragging it into a little deep of water. Marcos Rogerio, he's 4-2 in the UFC. Those are his last 6 fights. But he hasn't been out of the first round in the UFC. He's never really gotten full-on UFC jitters. He's never heard the bell for round 2 or 3. Who knows? He may have good cardio, but I think if he really gets pushed in this fight, all OSP has to do is weather the storm. Marcos is really strong and hits hard in that first round, but who knows how he's going to perform in that third round.
Yeah, and I don't think that we've seen him in there against anyone. His best wins over Clinton Hester, who was a blown-up middleweight, so, I mean, that's hard to call that a big win. And Nikita Krylov, the loss, that's understandable. Nikita Krylov was really hot light heavyweight prospect for a while, so he lost to a really legit guy, and his wins are over guys that are a little bit questionable. But Ovin St. Preux's fought far superior competition, and you say, hey, all right, strength of schedule heavily favors Ovins, but he loses to them all.
He does, but he's been in some 5-rounders. 5-rounder with Bader, 5-rounder with John Jones. He's been there with some really good guys, and he's got some crack on his punches. He did knock out Shogun Rua.
Yeah, and he knocked out Patrick Cummings, too, the wrestler who just got a win this past weekend over Blachowicz. So, I mean, he definitely has some bang, but after those 2 knockout wins, he's really struggled. Glover Teixeira, I thought, really, for the most part, put him in check, and John Jones is never in doubt in that fight even.
Yeah, and
this is where I feel like a good gym comes into effect because we all know the guy's a great athlete. He has amazing athleticism, reach, his kicks, he throws everything with power. But he fights at that Team Knoxville or something. It's a really smaller gym, and I just don't feel like he ever really evolved.
Yeah, and he does get a little sloppy at times. He leaves himself open. Isn't the hardest guy to hit, but does have that good cardio. I see the worst I ever seen him look. I wasn't expecting Jimmy Manua to just blow him out of the water and knock him out in the first round the way he did.
But what about his last fight against that Volkan? That other guy.
OSP's last fight?
Yeah, Volkan Odesmir, whatever his last one. And they were both gassed at the end. I just thought Vince looked like a guy who hadn't really, his game hasn't evolved much.
Yeah, I missed that.
He used to play football, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did. University of Tennessee.
played college football in Tennessee. But yes, I missed that loss to Volkan Esdemir. I'm going to go back and watch that before I lay any money down on him. But right now I have him picked. But yes, he did. He lost to Volkan. I said, hey, no shame in losing to Jimmy Manuwa, John Jones, or Glover Teixeira. But there is a little shame in losing to Volkan Esdemir.
Yeah, I mean, and that makes it, 4 or 5 now, or at least 3 out of 4 for Ovince. So, yeah, I don't know. And he's reaching that age now where you're over on the wrong side of 35 and you've lost 3 out of 4. You're nowhere close to the title. And do you have that same motivation to cut weight, train, try to evolve just to be the gatekeeper?
That's a good point. That's a good point. Marcos Rogerio de Lima, right now, slight underdog, but like I said, has never been out the first round in the UFC. Oh, Vince, I'm going to put money on you. Take him to round 2. That's all I ask. And on the other action, one of my Indiana boys, Eddie Winland from Duneland Valley Tudo, and he's been at that gym for like 20 years now. He's the fight.
That gym's
way
hot
back
lately.
in the day.
Elkins just come off that
Elkins
big
had a
win. He
huge
trains
win.
at that gym.
He's fighting John Dodson. Dodson minus 200 favorite, and like I'm really going to be pulling for the Indiana boy in this fight, so I doubt I'll put money on. But Wineland does have a style that could give Dodson problems because he has good hands and he fights behind his jab well. And Dodson coming up from 125 pounds again, but is going to be the shorter guy. He's got power, but could he get Eddie Wineland?
What I didn't realize about Eddie Wineland, and I always knew he was a power puncher, is how many of his wins come by knockout. And including his last 2, he's on that 2-fight win streak, and they both come by knockout. I mean, Eddie Wineland for that weight class, really, that's right, he really bangs. And the problem for Eddie Wineland is when he doesn't knock you out, he normally loses the fight. He normally gets outworked in the process of trying to knock you out. And John Dodson, coming from a great gym, we know, and Jackson Wink, who has a lot of fighters on this card, they always have a good game plan. And it's very likely that along the way of the course of the fight, John Dodson's probably going to be the more active guy and may outwork Eddie Wineland. Does Wineland get that knockout that he seems to get every time he wins?
That's true. Does Dodson, do you think we could see Dodson kind of go to his wrestling in this fight? I don't remember seeing Dodson take guys down too much.
No, I think he did try to take Lineker down a little bit. And then he kind of went away from it at the end. He was trying to avoid the power.
That was a terrible decision, by the way.
It was, actually.
When Dodson lost to Lineker. But Lineker was a 135-pounder. Dodson moved up in that fight, but they were about the same height. Lineker is short. And the one thing I see in this fight is Wineland's going to have that reach advantage, and he does kind of fight tall pretty well for that. And I think you have a good point that Dodson might just out-hustle and outwork him, but in order to outwork the guy, you have to get close enough to land those significant strikes, and not just because he's from Indiana. Yeah, okay, maybe that has a lot to do from it. But I see Wineland being able to use his reach and throw more punches and combinations that land, and that's why I'm picking him to beat Dodson.
I almost thought about taking him too, just for the reasons you said. His reach is so good. He's hot again. Wineland looked good his last couple of fights, and he always had some of the heaviest hands at 135. And then I just got a little nervous because I thought, I just don't know in this fight. I think.
Do you think Dodson's the bigger name? Like if I followed Matt's strategy of wait until fight night, do you think Dodson has a bigger name and could pull some bets?
I don't know. They're both they're both title challengers, right? Wineland fought Henan Brow for the title, got knocked out. Dodson fought Demetrius Johnson. But the one thing I'll say about Dodson is he fought John Lineker, who's a huge puncher, never got hurt. Fought Demetrius Johnson twice, who can bang, and never got hurt either time. Went all 5 both fights with DJ.
It's because he likes to move. He's never in the same spot.
Yeah, I've never seen him get hurt.
He's very quick.
Yeah,
some of his stoppage losses earlier in
career.
career
A weird style.
could be attributed more to his cardio.
He has that weird style. He does have a weird
Unpredictable.
style.
Hard to get a beat on.
He moves and all of a sudden he lunges. He catches you with those little. I mean, like he kicked Lineker in the head
A couple times.
Yeah.
4 or 5 times just from a fake, and then the kick came out of nowhere.
Yeah, and he's super athletic.
Boy, oh boy, now you're getting me to rethink my bet. But this is good because I haven't laid it down yet. I might, like Matt said, wait till
I was going to do it
weigh-ins
today, but I'm thinking about waiting until Saturday.
or fight night. But I do like Wineland. In this fight, I do like St. Preux, but I'm not going to touch that one with money. I do not really like Diego, but my heart's going to be with him so much that I'm not going to touch that fight. And Cub Swanson, I think at minus 600, he'll probably only go up, and it'll probably be a minus 800 by the time fight night hits.
What do you think of everybody's newest favorite bad guy in the UFC, Mike Perry?
Mike Platinum Perry.
Platinum.
He's officially off probation and on to fight again in the octagon. This guy has momentum going for you. He's fighting Jake Ellenberger. He's a slight favorite right now. Ellenberger's got the bigger name, but I just think he's a younger, kind of stronger, harder-hitting version of Ellenberger. Ellenberger's dropped 6 of his last 8 fights. And I think his best days are behind him. He's 32 years old, but he's an old 32 years old. This is a tough one to pick, but I just like Perry because of the momentum he has going for him, and he just seems like a younger, stronger, hungrier, harder-hitting Ellenberger.
Perry reminds me of one of your friends, a young Phil Baroni, where he goes in there, and he's just big, strong guy, and he goes in there, and everything's haymaker, going for that knockout. But as we saw in his last fight, when he couldn't get that knockout, he didn't really seem like he had a plan B.
Yeah, he got outpointed in his last fight.
He didn't just get outpointed. He got dominated every minute of every round by Alan Jouban.
Well, okay, he got dominated, but Alan Jouban had that strategy to kind of use his longer reach and kind of stick and move, and didn't really stay flat-footed and really wasn't in a spot to get hit by Mike Perry. I don't think Ellenberger really can employ that same strategy because he's not that long. And I've never seen that version of Ellenberger where he kind of moves his head, moves side to side, and outpoints guys a lot. Will we see a new Jake Ellenberger in this fight?
Well, I don't think so. I think Mike Perry will probably draw him into that style of a fight.
Just slugging out, throwing bombs?
Slugging it
I
out.
hope so.
Yeah.
To your point, though, can Ellenberger maybe out-wrestle him? Because we haven't really seen Mike Perry in a wrestling match.
That's true. Yes, he does have strong hips. So just by hip strength, he's not going to be the easiest guy to take down. But Jake Ellenberger is a wrestler. I mean, that's his roots. He started in this point a pure wrestler. He physically got pretty strong back about 5 years ago and started knocking guys out, throwing bombs. But lately, we haven't seen that Ellenberger. Could he go back to his roots and use his wrestling?
Interesting thing about Jake Ellenberger, his last 9 losses, and he's 31-12 now, have all come against ranked opponents. And since 2012, he's 4-0 against not ranked opponents. He hasn't looked good. His record has been bad since 2012, but he is 4-0 against non-ranked opponents, and Mike Perry fits into that non-ranked category.
That is a very interesting statistic that I was not aware of. That is a nice fact. Wow. Got me rethinking this one again. My goodness. Yeah, on paper, I got to go with Perry. Just by who's got momentum, I got to go with Perry. But yes, based on that fact against ranked opponents and based on pure wrestling breed, I got to go with Jake Ellenberger.
And a couple of Ellenberger's losses, even though if you just look at his record, you go, oh, look, he got knocked out by Jorge Masvidal, and he was getting smoked in that first round. But the actual knockout was like a toe stuck in the
fence.
Yeah, and
yeah.
A couple of them were
He
strange.
would have got knocked out anyway.
Probably.
I mean, he'd have been dropped a couple times. It was
disagree.
still the first round. And Masvidal's on fire as of late. But yeah, he does have a couple of those losses. Wow. This, this betting game's getting really interesting, Matt. We're on to Joe Lauzon versus Stevie Ray. And Stevie Ray, we saw him in his last fight outpoint Ross Pearson. And he's a younger guy. You think, hey, maybe on paper he should be able to take the old veteran Lauzon, who's got a ton of experience in fights at 32 years old. But, Lauzon, great submission guy. I think if this fight goes to the ground, Stevie Ray's in trouble.
Lazone's amazing in a sense where, we talk about some of these guys not embracing the role of gatekeeper. He really, truly has embraced that role. He's had that role now for almost a decade, it seems like.
Right?
If you want to be one of the top lightweights in the UFC, you need to beat Joe
That's
Lozon
true.
first. And you look at the names that he's beaten still. I mean, he just knocked out Diego Sanchez, something nobody does. He beat Michael Chiesa, who's getting the fight against Kevin Lee. And no one really out-wrestles Michael Chiesa, although it was a cut, but he was more than holding his own. I mean, Lozon's amazing. This is going to be an interesting fight.
That's right. And I think the big advantage Lozon has in this fight is that experience. He knows he's been in so many close fights. He's been in so many close fights against top-level ranked guys. And I think if this fight is close, he knows how to do exactly what the judges want to see to get that decision.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, even in his last fight, after the win, that decision win, he said,
I didn't win.
That's right.
Marcin held.
But he knows how to, get the judges' attention, what they're looking for. He's been down this parade.
Yeah,
so
when
many
you
times.
have that many close fights that go to decision, you really get to know the judges. And I think he has that advantage over Stephen Ray in this fight.
Look, and he seems to have a little steam left in the tank. Like, he seems like he still loves doing it.
He does.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you said, he's accepted that row. And I think earlier in his career, he's been more of a front runner. I remember back against Kenny Florian, me and Kenny, good friends, and that was one of Kenny's strategies. Was like, he's a front runner. We're going to drag him into that third round, and that's exactly what Kenny did. But since then, all that time and experience of doing this job, now I don't think that same holds true anymore. And I think Joe fights really well in the third round, and actually he has been looking stronger as the fight goes on.
I agree with that entirely. I agree with that,
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. Jim Miller, that's right.
Jim Miller, yeah.
He had a good fight with him, and
Yeah.
I believe he did not get the decision in that one, right?
No, I actually had him winning that fight, but he lost a close
Yes,
decision.
he
to
lost a
Jim
close
Miller.
decision. Yeah, in that fight, but I thought he won.
I mean, look at the names of guys that have beat him. Ali Aquinta, Michael Johnson, Anthony Pettis. Everybody who's ever climbed the lightweight ranks had to go through
That's
Joe
true.
along the way.
And some of the guys he's beat are big names.
Yeah.
So, yeah, at minus 130, I think Joe Lazone's a steal in this fight. And those odds, you better jump on that one now because I think as fight night comes to fruition, he'll probably be a minus 200.
He could go up for sure. He's definitely the name here. I will say this for Stephen Ray. Ian Freeman started that new gym over there. And Stevie Ray is kind of the, their big star of the high-level MMA gym, Ian Freeman's new gym. And look, he's 4-1 in the UFC. He's pretty young. It's not impossible if he stays off the ground with Joe, who's so dynamic on the ground.
That's
That
true,
maybe
to
he could
outpoint him.
outpoint him. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think he's knocking Joe out, and I certainly don't think he's finishing him on the ground.
Yeah, it's a good point. I didn't know him. First time I saw him was against Ross Pearson, and was really impressed how he was just able to outpoint Ross pretty much the whole fight.
Yeah, because Ross is a pretty active guy in there. He gets in and throws a lot of strikes. I watched that fight too, and I'm like, wow, this guy's pretty good, and he's pretty diverse, And
Yeah,
if he
Ross
can-
had a lot of trouble touching him.
Yeah, if he can keep it standing, Joe's a good striker and he sits down on his punches, but he's not always the most fluid guy. Ali Aquinta used footwork and to really pick Joe apart, and I don't know that Stevens quite Ali Aquinta range, but he could outpoint him.
That's true. And rounding out the card, we have Smiling Sam Alvey. I'm not a huge fan of this guy's. I think I was a little hard on him. Sorry, Sam. I just, I like picking old timers. I picked Nate Marquardt to win that fight. I lost some money. So I got a little heated, and I may have said some things that were offensive. And for that, I apologize. But I do like Thales Leites in this fight. And do you know if you're going to open Sam Alvey as a slight favorite?
No, I think Leitas. I think it's a round to pick him here, actually. It'll be interesting to see. My thought process on this one was open it around to pick and see where it goes. But I have a feeling Leitas is going to end up a small favorite here. Although, to me, it's a really one of those styles makes fights thing. I think if they can keep it standing, Sam's the bigger puncher, and he's probably going to be a little more active. And obviously, if Leitas gets it to the ground, it's
Sam
over.
has that momentum going for him. He's on a 4-fight win streak.
Yep, and latest, I didn't like his last fight.
Yeah, I mean, he's lost 3 of his last 4, and he hasn't looked too good as of late. So,
I mean, a lot of people count Alvey out. He's 7-2 in the UFC, won 4 in a row, and
That's
4
pretty
of his
good.
last 7 wins have come by KO.
that's pretty good. And yeah, Leite's lost 3 of his last 4. He's 35 years old. Is he on the slide? Is he on the back? Have we seen the best Thales Leites? Are his best days behind him? But look at who he's lost to. Musasi, the current champion Bisping, and the undefeated, something like 20-0, Christoph Joyko. And they were all decision losses. So, and when I looked at that, when I saw that, like, this guy, I mean, people really, they may beat him, but they don't beat him up. And if this fight goes to the ground, my God, I think he's got a huge advantage there. And that's kind of why I like Thales.
I like Talus on this one. I seem to think that he's not going to stand up with this guy. He's going to jam him up against the fence and then get him on the ground.
Well, I think that's his best shot of winning, but his hands have looked a lot better than they used to. Look how terrible his hands were back when he fought Anderson Silva compared to now. He's knocking guys out. He's hanging in there, throwing down with guys like Bisping and Musasi.
Yeah.
I thought Musasi would knock him out.
You thought Musasi would knock him out?
Yeah, when Musasi fought Thales Leites.
It didn't seem
Yes,
like
yeah.
Musasi really tried. He used
Yeah,
his
he's-
range. He kept kicking him from distance. I feel like if he wanted to, he might have been.
Yeah,
able
he
to.
could have.
Yeah.
He just didn't want to engage the jiu-jitsu guy, and he used his. I mean,
That's
Musasi's an amazing kicker. He has great legs.
Yeah, that's a good point. He wanted to stay out of grappling distance because he knew on the ground Leites had an advantage. So
Leites
it's
wanted
a
the
good
ground.
point. He really might not have been trying to knock him out.
I think I'm a little bitter on Thales Leites because I bet him against Bisping, and Bisping just dominated him. And I was a little disgruntled about it.
That's what we call the Sam Alvey syndrome.
Sam Elder.
Yeah.
Oh, and the last fight of the night, Brandon Moreno against Dustin Ortiz. Moreno was hot. I believe he was ranked 6th sorry. Brandon Moreno was coming off the Ultimate Fighter, and he upset the number 6 ranked guy, Luis Smolka.
Yeah.
And he's fighting Dustin Ortiz, who's kind of the gatekeeper at this weight class.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, he looked great in both. And we saw Moreno fight here on the Demetrius Johnson undercard when Johnson fought Tim Elliott against Ryan Benoit, another accomplished wrestler. And Moreno really looks like he's putting it together. I mean, he's only 23 years old, already
Wow.
has 16 pro fights, 10-fight winning streak at this point, 2-0 in the UFC. The sky's the limit for him, and the UFC really wants to develop stars in the Mexican market.
So you're
That's
seeing
the guy I'm looking at right now. I've been watching this kid.
Really good. Super charismatic. I mean,
You're looking at this as the UFC's way of building up a new Mexican phenom.
I think Dustin Ortiz is good enough. It's weird when we talk about a gatekeeper ranked number 6 in the world, but at the same time, I mean, look at Joseph Benavides whooped Ortiz, got a title shot. Wilson Heiss beat him, got a title shot. You know, we know the flyweight division isn't deep. So the fact that he's ranked number 6, maybe he's might only be the 10th best guy in the world, but you know, I don't think the UFC would put him in with Dustin Ortiz right now if they didn't think he could beat him.
That's a good point. And the point I overlooked, only 23 years old on a 10-fight winning streak. Wow, this guy's only going to get better. Expect him to have improved since his last fight. And just that statistic, being 23 on a 10-fight winning streak and taking out some top guys in the UFC.
Yeah, that's
really
amazing.
And he had some adversity against Ryan Benoit in his last fight and overcome it and looked really good. So, and look, that he's part of that Entram gym, which is one of the up-and-coming gyms in Mexico. They got about 20 or 30 pros down there at that gym, and I feel like this is a kid to watch out for.
Yeah, I watched him because he took that fight on 2 weeks' notice when he beat Smolka.
Smolka, yeah.
Yeah.
He was a huge underdog. Took the fight on 2 weeks' notice, and it was his UFC debut.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Smolka was red hot at the time.
And didn't have the jitters.
and he looked like he was having fun in there.
He does, doesn't he? He comes in with a huge smile, 23, not a care in the world.
Yep.
I mean, he has the makings of a star.
Yeah, has that look like you said, not a care in the world, like he's never been knocked out before. And he probably hasn't. You have a certain look on your face when you've never been knocked out. Oh, so there you have it. That's the UFC card, UFC Fight Night 106, is it?
No, 108.
108, my God, time flies. Man, I fought on Fight Night 1. We're on 108. But really, on this card, Cub Swanson, man, I hope a bunch of Irish people start betting Lobov because minus 600, I don't see how Cub loses this fight. Diego Sanchez, does he have anything left in the tank against Elia Quinta? These guys don't think he does, and I'm just hoping for it because he's season 1. OSP versus Marcos Rogério da Silva, that's kind of a toss-up. I say OSP's keys to victory is just taking it into deep water.
I'm betting the other side of that one, actually.
De Lima, you like De Lima.
I don't like guys who, I mean, he had so much talent, don't get me wrong, with St. Preux, but he never went to a good gym. He never got a good trainer, and to me, he never really developed that talent.
All right, you talked me into that side.
I like Wineland versus Dodson. Matt likes Dodson. Nick
Dodson.
Nick likes Dodson as well. Other than that, I like Telis Leites over Smiling Sam Alvey. You guys?
I could see that Leites has more ways to win, but I just feel like Smiling Sam's on a roll. He just turned 30. He's won 4 in a row. He has more punching power than people realize. Everyone picks against him every fight, and all he does is win.
Yeah.
That's a good point. You're picking, I'll go the other way.
Yeah.
I mean, if Sam Alvey didn't do that weird suntan tattoo thing on his chest, wouldn't we all like him a little more?
You're probably right.
Yeah.
I like Leites, so Nick's going to go with Sam. I like Lauzon against Stevie Ray. That's a hard one to pick. So you guys don't feel the same way? Or Matt, you don't. You like Stevie Ray.
I just think at plus money, he could outpoint him. I mean, Lauzon's awesome. He probably has more ways to win.
I like Lauzon on that one.
Yeah, and then also Mike Perry, slight favorite against Ellenberger, and you have that same kind of feeling about that match.
Yeah, something about Mike Perry.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, maybe
ring
look, it was
smarts.
his first loss. Yeah, like, he had no answer in his last fight for what? You're not going to stand and slug with me? And, like, no
That's
plan
a good
B.
point.
Yeah.
Well, there you have it. There's our picks. Fight Night 108 coming up. And, Bellator. Strauss versus Pitbull 4. Anyone going to watch that?
Yeah, I'm going to bet Strauss, personally.
When is it, Friday?
Yeah, Friday.
I'll probably miss it.
Saturday. Yeah, I like Strauss in that fight too. So, and then Fight Night on Saturdays. So I'm just hoping the Bellator card, these guys start fighting a little harder and they maybe give out some bonuses. Do something. It just the cards have been lacking lately.
Yeah, putting a bonus out there, sometimes that helps them.
Put a bonus out there. Do something. They need it. But for what was the nickname I gave Matt?
The odds. I don't know. I thought it was something like
It was
that.
something great, and I forgot
Matt,
it.
the odds.
Yes. So for Matthew Holt and Nick Blomgren, I'm Stephan Bonnar saying next week I'll think up some really creative nicknames, and I'll see you later.